Alright, so welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be a bit of a different one. I'm going to be making this video as more of kind of a flow of my conscious thoughts on how somebody that's looking to get into Turo or is new to Turo, maybe they've been on for a couple of months, can really get ahead on this platform. I've put together a Miro board and I'm kind of just going to walk through kind of what I did and what I would do in today's kind of platform. It's going to be a very raw video, not really cut. Maybe if I, mess up a couple words, I'll cut here and there. But other than that, this is just going to be straightforward front to back video. So let's just get started. So basically, kind of like I said, maybe you're here because you're new to Turo or because you want to grow your Turo business. Essentially, you're at one of these stages. So you either have, a beat up old car that you just want to try to make some money off of. Maybe you've got a relatively decent car, like a Toyota Corolla or something similar to that, where, you think that you can make some money off of it. Maybe you're not using it. Maybe you're using it just to get to work and back. Maybe you've got a decently nice car like a Tesla Model S or something similar, some luxury vehicle, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, something like that, where you want to try to make, a couple extra bucks on it. Or maybe you're, big baller, you've got a Lambo and you want to start doing luxury rentals. Essentially, you're at one of these stages and you're like, I want to grow my business or I just want to make some money off of this car. And basically, I just want to make a video that I wish I could have found early on in my Turo days. So essentially, maybe you're here, making 20,000 or less on Turo, and you want to get to a point where you're making 6 figures or even 7 figures on Turo. And I really want this video to be that for you. So let's go over all the things you'll need to be putting in place to make that a reality. So number one is to understand that this is not going to happen overnight. You're going to have to scour the web or local dealerships for, the right vehicle. I wouldn't jump on anything because, as you'll hear from tons of Turo hosts, when you buy the car is when you're making a lot of money or losing a lot of money. If you buy a really bad deal, let's say, you're buying a car that's worth $5,000, but, you really have FOMO. You just want to get into Turo and you say, whatever, I'm going to pay $8,000 for this car just because that's what it's listed at. You're losing money right there. And down the road, you may be underwater. You're already underwater. And you're going to have issues down the road where, if you want to get out, you're going to have issues with that. And it's just a really bad situation to be in. So just finding the right deal at the right price instead of FOMOing into something is really important. So taking your time, this is not going to happen overnight, but taking your time to find the right vehicle. Next, taking quality photos of your vehicles and making an amazing listing to stand out from the crowd. Turo is all about standing out from the crowd. When you go on to Turo and you search for your market, you're going to see hundreds, if not thousands of vehicles if you're in a place like Miami or New York or LA. And basically, you want to stand out from the crowd. And to do that, you're going to have to make sure that you're taking quality photos. You're setting up a quality description for your vehicle, adding all the things that your vehicle might have. It's got Bluetooth, it's got a sunroof, it's got all this, that, the other. Making sure that your correct model with the specifications are set up. That's very important to Turo, even if it seems like it might not be. It's very important to actually create your listing to the best of your ability. And I'll talk a little bit later about how I was able to do that and how I actually would recommend doing that in today's, landscape. Next, you will have to work on your pricing, your discounts, all of your Turo settings. This comes as second nature to hosts after some time on the platform, but early on, you'll have to do research in order to be able to figure this stuff out. Every market is different. Make sure you have your discounts set correctly, descriptions, and everything on your listing in tip-top shape, and your availability all figured out. So essentially what I'm saying here is that, after some time, it'll come as second nature. I need to price my vehicles at this price point because that's what they get rented at. This is my availability. I need to make sure that I have it set. These are my discounts. That's what works for me. But early on, it can kind of be a struggle to figure out what works, especially in every single market, because every market is different. Maybe you're in a market, and you're lucky, your market only has 30 or 40 cars, and there's actually an influx of tourists or people coming for business or something, and you're in a really advantageous position where you can, set your pricing decently high and your discounts don't have to be that high. But maybe you're in a place, like I said, like Miami or LA, where you need to be more competitive, set your pricing a little bit lower, offer more discounts, have, open availability, stuff like that. And so that's really something that you need to work on and see how it affects your ranking in order to really optimize your chances of being successful on Turo. So with that covered, let's move on to number 2, which is insurance. So you need to make sure your vehicles are insured appropriately for your state. So every state is different. Some, will have a minimum insurance requirement. Some don't require insurance at all. Obviously, I think it's a smart idea to have insurance in general, just in case anything happens. But if you want to take advantage of higher deductible plans, so, Turo has the 60, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90. I don't know exactly the plans nowadays because I stick to the 90 plan. But, they have the lower and they have the higher, like the 90. And essentially, if you want to take advantage of the higher deductible plans like the 90 plan, which has a $2,500 deductible, you may want to consider fleet insurance, which just so you know, requires an LLC and requires that your vehicles be titled under your LLC. And if you need any information on starting an LLC for Turo or, the whole process of going through that, I have a couple of videos on my YouTube channel. I'll link them in the description below. Feel free to take a look at them. Also, feel free to drop some comments if you just have some general questions, need some general help on starting an LLC or, titling under an LLC when you're going to buy a vehicle. But in order to take advantage of fleet insurance, commercial fleet insurance, you are going to need an LLC and you're going to need your vehicles to be titled under an LLC. And once you do that, you'll be able to get fleet insurance. Like, for example, I have GMI insurance. I've had them for years for my Turo fleet. And essentially, I have a $1,000 deductible through them. So whenever I have damage on Turo for the $2,500 deductible, I'm able to get a difference in deductible from GMI. And so they just cut me a check for the difference whenever my damages are over $1,000. But I'm still able to take advantage of the higher plan, the 90 plan on Turo. So it is a really great thing to have. I really have been successful with it. So that's definitely something you can take a look at. This is just a thumbnail from my video, but I do have a video on fleet insurance. Feel free to take a look at that and ask questions if you have any. But also recently Turo has started to offer off-trip insurance, but there are other alternatives on the market. Like I said, GMI, and there's a couple of other ones that have existed for quite some time, but there's, the ones that are more recent, like Tint and a couple of other ones. I'm really not familiar with too many of them just because my current insurance situation has been very successful for me, so I don't really have the need to go and look for other alternatives. But I know that there are alternatives on the market, and honestly, they're Google away, and some of them are even on Turo if you just go through the notifications on Turo. I know that Turo is really pushing a couple of them nowadays. Next, we have number 3, which is you need to establish a relationship with a mechanic and preferably a body shop or at least a painter. So I would go as far as to say that this is a requirement for everybody that wants to be successful on Turo. Sure, you can have, some general success, maybe some small scale success without having a relationship with a mechanic and a body shop or a painter. But honestly, once you get a good mechanic, this is when you're able to, basically like what I said down here, a good mechanic will save you thousands of dollars in labor cost, will be able to get your vehicle up and running faster, leading to less downtime and more profits, and will help solidify the longevity of your vehicles in this business. So essentially, if your vehicle comes back and maybe it needs new brakes and it has another trip in 5 hours, if you don't have a relationship with a mechanic, you're going to have to cancel that next trip, lose out on that money. It's going to have downtime, and you're going to have to take it to a shop where they're going to cost, it's going to cost you, average labor hours, which is, maybe 180, 200, 220, 240 an hour. It can get pretty ridiculous. So, and that's just general pricing for labor on vehicles nowadays. Whereas when you have a relationship with a mechanic, they might charge you a flat rate of maybe $90 to do your brakes, $60 to do your brakes, something like that, which can be a lot better for you. And on top of that, if you have a great relationship with your mechanic, let's say, like I said, you have a trip coming up in 6 hours, your mechanic might be able to get your brakes done within the next 2 hours, and then the vehicle can go out on that trip. You don't have to have downtime. So that is really the advantage to that. The advantage of having a body shop or a painter is, for example, let's say that, your car gets sideswiped and you put in a damage claim, and Turo deems that the damage is, let's say $5,000 or something like that, and they're going to pay you out $5,000 minus your deductible. And let's say with my $1,000 deductible through GMI, I'm going to get $4,000. When I have a relationship with a painter or with a body shop, I'm able to get that repaired, a full side swipe. Let's just say it's scraping across a full side. I could probably, pay my painter $1,250, $1,300, maybe let's just call it $1,500 to get that work done. And then the rest of the money I'm basically just pocketing as the difference. And so essentially having that relationship, I get to make that money, my painter makes money, and my car goes out faster, because going to a traditional body shop, I'm probably going to be waiting 3 to 4 months to get that done. So having that relationship, again, gets your vehicle out faster and you're able to make more money. So moving on, I'm going to talk a little bit about how I did each of those 3 things. So just numbers 1, 2, and 3 from up top. I'm going to talk about how I did them. And so just for understanding, the yellow boxes here are how I did it, and the green boxes are going to be how I would say that you should do it, or how I would do it if I did it today, essentially, because you need to do your own research, but this is how I would do it in today's landscape. So for number 1, this is finding the right car, creating the good listings, getting the right photos. And so what I did was I scoured Car Gurus, which is, one of the websites that you can find online. There are various other ones, cars.com and a couple other ones. But this one I found to be the best one, at least for my area. And essentially I just looked for vehicles that were good deals. And once I found them, I went and looked at them in person. And I did a little bit of, back and forth with the dealership on the price. And usually I was able to get, hopefully between $500 and $1,000 off of a vehicle, and then, sometimes even more. And then getting the vehicle, and that's that in terms of the Car Gurus part. And then back in the day, for the descriptions of my vehicles, I was just writing them out on Word doc and then perfecting them. So basically just writing out, if I had a Toyota Corolla, this is a great Toyota Corolla with this many seats and this, Bluetooth enabled, and you're able to use aux if you don't have Bluetooth. It's got a sunroof for all the nice, beautiful days in my market, and, tons of space for your luggage in the back seat. I offer this, I offer that. And basically just writing all of that in a Word doc before copying it and pasting it over to Turo. And just perfecting my listing, adding the different features that it has and such. And then lastly, the photos. I didn't do anything special. I didn't, go and hire a $250, $350 photographer to come and take professional photos of my vehicle. I found a really nice setting for the backdrop of my vehicle, and I just used my iPhone to take all of the photos, and then I uploaded it. That was essentially it. So if you have an iPhone or some other phone with a nice camera, you should be perfectly fine to just use that. I guess that can translate to what I would do today. Is I would still do that. I would use my iPhone to take the pictures. I think that it has worked out perfectly for me, as long as you have an eye for a good photo. Some people don't have an eye for a good photo. When you're taking a photo, you're going to want to make sure that the background looks good, that there's not garbage, or that, there's not people walking behind that are making the photo kind of about them instead of about the car. So basically just making sure that the car is the main aspect of the photo, and that's basically about it. In terms of where I would find the cars, Car Gurus has always been perfect for me. So I would just go on there and find vehicles that way. And then the only difference that you can see here is nowadays for a description, we have ChatGPT. So honestly, you don't have to have the pro membership for ChatGPT. You can use the base ChatGPT to output a description for a vehicle. So let's say that I have a Toyota Corolla. I would go on to ChatGPT and say, I am a Turo host for a rental car business, and I just want a description of my Toyota Corolla to use for my vehicle listing. Could you please output a small 2-paragraph description of my vehicle? It is a silver Toyota Corolla with 4 doors and, whatever other features you want to mention. And then you hit enter and ChatGPT is going to spit out a perfectly worded description for you. So then copy and paste it into your description and you're good to go. So moving on to number 2. Number 2, as we recall up here, is about insurance. And so essentially, back in the day, it was kind of like the Stone Ages for commercial insurance for Turo. I did so much Googling. It was just like, commercial fleet insurance for rental cars, and everything was like, based for, vehicles. Fleets of like over 500 vehicles. If you didn't have over 500 vehicles, it was very hard to find really anything. And they really wanted to work with big businesses. They didn't want to talk to you if you were doing, peer-to-peer car sharing. But luckily, through Google, I was able to find GMI and a couple of other ones, specifically like Period X and a couple of other ones back in the day I was able to find. But I found that GMI was the best, and how I found that was that I used Gmail, and I just sent, a couple of emails to their support. They got me in contact with a broker, and essentially I had a conversation with him over the phone. I told him all about what I did, what my setup was, how many vehicles I had. And he said, this all sounds perfect to me. We've, helped tons of Turo hosts, and this is going to be the price per vehicle. He told me a couple of other fees that I had to pay. And essentially that was it. Just had to pay those fees and got my insurance set up. And it has, like I said, it has worked for me very well. So that's how I did it. In terms of how I would do it now in today's landscape, just use YouTube. You can look up Turo insurance, Turo fleet insurance, and I'm sure there's like 50 videos. Like I said, I have a video on fleet insurance, but I'm sure there are other videos on like Tint and some other insurance that you can purchase. So obviously, you can just go on YouTube and look up Turo insurance and find tons and tons of videos on different insurance companies that you can go through. And then once you find them, still send them an email, say, this is my situation. I've got, maybe I've got 5 cars, I've got 15 cars, I've got 25 cars, whatever your situation is. What does, the insurance sign up look like? What kind of fees do I need to pay? And essentially just get a feel for what the process is going to look like with that insurance company. And then number 3, we've got the mechanic. And so how I did this, you might be like, why the heck does this guy have a picture of a baby on here? So luckily enough, I have a mechanic that I've been friends with since I was in elementary school. So that's why I've got a picture of baby. Basically, we go way back. And he has been a mechanic at a dealership for like 7 or 8 years, something like that. And so he's always able to help me, whether I need my brakes done, whatever the situation is, he's able to help me. So he's one of my best friends. And he's been a huge part of my business and why I've been able to be successful. So I'm really appreciative of that relationship. But how I would say I would do it if I didn't have that relationship, or if you don't know somebody like that, is essentially just go to the same business every time you need to get stuff done. So for example, my oil changes, sometimes when my mechanic is like out of town or something, I have gone to the same oil change, to the same place to get oil changes every single time that he's not available. And now they literally give me like 20% off of every single oil change that I need to get. And so basically that's just been from me coming in with tons of vehicles, giving them business. And so honestly, just going to the same place and giving them your business, they're going to eventually notice you and start to recognize that you're coming there a lot. And, somebody there is going to be willing to help you out because you're helping out their business. And if you ever have problems with finding a way to do these things, here's the solution. Go on YouTube and search it, or go on Google and search it. That's really the basis of this. If you have any questions, you can find them probably on YouTube because of how many people are now doing Turo related stuff on YouTube. or on Google, just because Google has everything. So moving on, we're going to talk about some bottlenecks. So I'll try to get most of them. I think I'm going to miss one of them, but I'll try to get most of them in the frame. So let's talk about bottlenecks. And essentially, if you don't know what a bottleneck is, it's just something that's holding you back, or, it's an issue for you in this business. And so one issue for you, especially if you're new, might be that you don't have great credit. And so I know that this graphic shows excellent credit, but maybe you have fair, poor, or maybe good credit, which can, even though it's good, on the low end of good can be an issue sometimes, just because of how dealerships frame it, or, banks frame it. And so let's say that you have, fair to good credit, and you're trying to get a car, but you're having issues with it. Or trying to buy more vehicles. Maybe you've got, 3, 4, or 5 vehicles, but you're trying to buy more. And every time you go, the dealership's like, oh, sorry, no banks are willing to give you a loan. Do you want to pay cash, but you don't have the cash? And so one alternative could be co-hosting. A lot of the super huge hosts that you see online and in the Facebook groups and whatnot, they are co-hosts for the most part. Yes, they own some of their vehicles, but let's say, somebody that has 200 cars, a lot of those people, maybe they own 20, 30, 40 cars, and then they co-host the rest of them. And so essentially they have set up contracts with different people across the United States that just want to, offload their vehicle, make some money on it, basically pay the note, maybe make a little bit of profit on it, and that's it. And so essentially, I know a lot of people, everybody's different, but I know there is kind of like a standard, like 60-40, 70-30 split for the co-host to the car provider, I would say. But yeah, that could be something that you could do to get into the Turo business. And then, once you can establish better credit, maybe it's, using a credit card to do your Turo transactions or something like that. Maybe then you can go and actually buy your vehicles, or maybe once you're making a bunch of money through Turo, you can just buy them in cash. So that could be one way to get around a credit bottleneck. Next, a cash bottleneck. So you don't have any money at all. Let's say that you're very low on cash in the bank. And essentially an alternative for that could be a $0 down payment. Maybe you've got a good credit score, but no money. You just go to the dealership and you're like, basically when they ask you how much you want to put down, they are very okay with you saying $0 down. So just say $0 down, and they're going to be like, okay, sign here, and you'll get the vehicle, and you can just start to make money off of it. And once you make some money, just start paying your note with the profit that you're making. So next, and I'll just scroll down because we're getting down here. We have one-man band. So maybe it's just you running this business, and you can only do so much. There's only so much time in a day. You only have 2 hands. And the alternative would be to start with a small fleet, maybe 5 to 10 vehicles, because that can be pretty much handled by one person. I think you could probably handle up to about 20 or 30 cars alone. I'd say it'd be pushing it with 30, but 20 cars it would maybe be a little bit difficult, but not super difficult to do 20 cars alone. Or the alternative would be to hire help. So you can find people, I've heard of stories of people finding, high schoolers, maybe they're 18 years old, or college kids that are just into cars and want to be around cars more. You can hire them on to help you with the cleaning and with whatever else you might need. Alternatives for customer service could be hiring VAs. I know a lot of the big time hosts use VAs to actually do their customer service. So hiring on a VA, training them for your specific needs for your Turo business, that could be something that you could do for that. And then lastly, talking about the insurance, let's say that you have a bad driving record, maybe when you were younger, or, whatever the case might be, you like to speed, or whatever the case might be. Maybe you just have bad luck and have been pulled over a bunch. The alternative could be taking the minimum insurance and running with a lower plan. So I wouldn't specifically do the 60 plan because you're just giving away a ton of your money. But running with a lower plan, like the 75 plan or something like that, and essentially just doing that with a lower insurance, something that's just, state minimum, essentially. that could be an alternative for that, and hopefully just paying as little as possible for insurance. But simply put, this isn't all the barriers to entry. If you have other barriers, drop them in the comments and I will reply to you. But honestly, I mean, I want to cover this very quickly. The very simple Turo equation is a good car at a good price, plus a good listing and ranking, plus being on a decent plan will equal profit. And I have good listing and ranking in gold because this is honestly the most important. If you're not ranking well, you're not going to make money on Turo. That's just that's it. That's the basis of it. And so what do I mean by ranking? So you essentially, when you look up a vehicle or when you look up a market, I'm sure all of you have seen this page before. When you go on Turo, type in a city, your date, you can literally just hit enter when you go on Turo.com, and you'll see the vehicles that pop up for your specific market. You need your car to be here at the top, and preferably in this first position. Honestly, any of these down here would also be okay, because when people are coming on here, they're probably looking at this vehicle, but they're probably also going to take a look at least at the first couple of other ones that pop up as well. So all these vehicles are being seen every time that somebody takes a look at this page. And if you are appearing here at the top of the search results with over 200 cars available, there's a large chance that this vehicle is going to get rented before number 200 on this list. And there are ways to do this, some of which I've mentioned earlier in this video, some of which I'm thinking about making a whole video about, and some of which are honestly a mystery. I've reached out to PowerHost support manager, I forget what they're called, to get some insight on it, to be able to make a really great video on it. Just because some of the documentation that they've given to us is pretty, there's a couple of things that they mentioned help with your ranking, but you can play around with your settings and see exactly what puts you in a position like this. But it's really important to be towards the top of the ranking, because if you're at number 200, the simple fact is that you're not going to get rented. You're not going to be making money on here. And that's basically it. What Turo comes down to is ranking. If you are ranking well, you're going to make money. And if you're not, you won't. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to drop them in the comments below. Hopefully this video has been helpful. If it has, make sure to drop a like on the video, make sure to subscribe for future content, and also hit the notification bell to stay updated on any of my future content. So hopefully, I really hope that this has been helpful to you guys. Like I said, I wish that something like this existed for me back in the day, especially kind of walking through this, kind of all this information, honestly. So if you want to see another one of these videos with any other content on Turo, anything Turo related, feel free to drop it in the comments and I'll try to make it happen. So thanks guys for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.